Hello and welcome to Profiles in Risk. This is your host, Tony Cañas, and this is going to be episode, 206, 207, something along the lines. It's been a few weeks since I've recorded, so I was kind of on vacation, if there is such a thing, right now. Today, I have with me Paul. As always, I did not ask you how to pronounce your last name.
It's Tetrault.
Tetrault. Paul Tetrault.
It looks like Tetrault, but it's Tetrault.
Okay, Paul Tetrault. I'm so bad at forgetting to do that. Who is the executive director of the Insurance Library. And shame on you for not knowing about the Insurance Library. If you are enough of a nerd to listen to Insurance Nerds, shame on you. But I'll be honest, I didn't know either until I met Paul, basically. So Paul, first of all, thank you for joining us today. And really, the main topic today is we want to talk about the book that you just wrote. But I definitely want to make sure that we start with the library and kind of with your background. So tell me about the Insurance Library.
Yeah, and I won't join you in shaming your audience about it. If you don't know about it, that's okay. But now, if this is your chance to learn about the library, it's a really terrific resource. The library was founded in 1887. We have served the insurance and risk management community since then, largely to a smaller geographic, kind of audience than we are striving to today. We are the only independent insurance library in the country, serving insurance and risk management community. And we have we do a lot. We operate in basically three different areas. Research, we have our collection, which has been built since 1887 and is a modern, up-to-date collection of information resources, databases, legal information, market information, AM Best reports, financial information. And we have two librarians on staff that have been with the library for 17 and 18 years, respectively. So they know insurance information backwards and forwards, and they can help you with all kinds of research inquiries. Research education, we have offered CPCU courses forever, other designation courses. We have our own faculty that specializes in different lines of insurance. We offer seminars on CGL and homeowners. And obviously during the time of the pandemic, we're doing a lot more with webinars. We've been offering webinars for a couple of years. A lot of our courses have gone online. So check us out. We have a new website's rolling out next week. So check us out after that, because the old website could use some improvements. But
awesome. Will time release to coincide with the new website?
So perfect.
So yeah, but by the time if you're listening to this, the new website's up. Go check it out. What's the URL?
www.insurancelibrary.org. So
perfect. I'll make sure to include that in the show notes. And you actually did not mention that it's physically located in Boston.
That's correct. We are at 156 State Street in Boston. If you know downtown Boston, in the historic area, it's right off the Freedom Trail. We're across the street from the Custom House Tower, right around the corner from Faneuil Hall. So, we are part of that sort of historic fabric of downtown Boston. So when you're there in normal times, when the pandemic is over, stop in, check us out, visit and say hi. We would love to give people tours of some of the historical items in our collection, and frankly, the history of the library as well. So we operate in the areas of say research, education, and engagement, where we offer we host a big annual event, and we host a lot of smaller events during the year. We've gone virtual in that regard. We've hosted book launches from some of the Insurance Nerds books, as but we have a lot of InsurTechs and Innovators. We've hosted at sort of brown bag lunch events. So we have a lot going on at the library. We're really proud to be part of the fabric of the community and really enrich the insurance community in whatever ways we can. So we're always looking to serve. So if there's something that you might think of us as a resource, check us out.
Right now, during the pandemic, are you close to the public, or is it just a mask mandate?
We are. We are not ordinarily we would be open 9 to 5 during business hours, and people could walk in on their own. Our staff is working from home.
Oh, okay.
But we are if someone needs to come in for any reason, that we can certainly make an appointment, and we'll go there and visit as well. And our staff, myself and the librarians, we go in from time to time whenever there's something that calls for us to, some research requests, for instance, actually require us to pull books off a shelf and then scan them and things like that. So we are open full time. We haven't sort of reduced our services, but we're not in a position where we would like to be, where someone can sort of just at any time during business hours walk in and say hi. So.
Makes perfect sense. So if you are enough of an insurance nerd to listen to this podcast, and you live in Boston or near Boston, or you go to Boston every once in a while for whatever reason, once we're back to normal, once we've been vaccinated and stuff, sometime next year, hopefully, make it a point to go check out the library.
Yeah.
Paul was nice enough to host a book launch for us for Rob's book. What's Rob's last name? I can't think of it right now.
Rob Galbraith.
Yeah, for Rob Galbraith's book, The End of Insurance as We Know It, and I was lucky enough to be able to be there. And it's gorgeous. It's in a beautiful part of Boston, and it is absolutely gorgeous. And for an insurance nerd like me, it was amazing. They have things like a booth from Lloyd's. I don't remember. It has a specific name. It's not a booth.
Yeah. It's a broker's box, an oak broker's box from Lloyd's of London. We have fire marks and a sandboard map collection from how property insurers fire insurers used to underwrite. We're frankly, and we're in discussions actually to become possibly more of a museum over time. Where it's someplace that people can visit, and understand what the insurance and risk management field sort of has to offer. So
awesome. So yeah, it is just a beautiful place, and the staff is super friendly. So once the world's back to the new normal, if you're from the area, or if you'll be in the area for whatever reason, it's worth a field trip. Make some time, go hang out, right. get a tour of the library.
It's a must visit, right?
It really is. And I'm embarrassed that I worked in insurance for, 8 years and didn't even know it existed.
It's okay.
So I know that you've only been running it for a little while, so I'm not going to blame you for not marketing it more during my early career. So Paul, I before we talk about the book, tell me a little bit. How did you end up running the insurance library? Like I know that you've been there for about a couple of years, and I know you spent some time.
A year and a half plus. I started at the beginning of 2019.
One thing I did not know until I really looked at your LinkedIn today before we recorded this is I did not know that you are an attorney. You're much too nice for me to have ever thought that you're an attorney. So what's your story?
I don't necessarily lead, but I'm proud to be it's not. I don't think it's a bad thing. I'll tell you my story. I started my first job out of college was at a daily newspaper. I just like to write. I like to learn about things. So I started writing for a daily newspaper. I had the opportunity to transfer, from sort of the hinterlands in New Hampshire to downtown Boston and work for an insurance publication, right? So, and just like anybody else, like a lot of people, I wasn't necessarily all that excited about working on insurance or writing about insurance, but it was an opportunity to be downtown Boston. I was covering a state legislature instead of a couple of local town committees or whatnot. So there were some advantages of it, and I thought I would sort of write for this insurance publication for a couple of years and maybe go off somewhere else in journalism and write for Newsweek or Business Week or it's just something else. But found insurance fascinating. Had the opportunity to lead that publication after a few years. So I spent 11 years at the publication called The Standard, and again, like the library with a long history, the Standard has been in existence since 1866, and the library and this publication have had a relationship. I actually have a letter on my wall in the office, and I wish I was speaking with you, from the library, and I do go in once in a while, but because it's something to see. But in my office, I have a framed letter from the editor of the Standard writing to the person who was running the library at the time, talking about I wish I went to get you a newspaper in Philadelphia about a certain article you were looking for, and I couldn't find it. I'm sending my regrets. So it's really this neat letter. So I went to law school when I was at that trade publication, and then ended up working for NAMIC, the National Association of Mutual Insurance Companies, for 13 years working in government affairs, state government affairs. So first as a regional representative and then as an in-house counsel for the State Department. In all those experiences, I developed a lot of relationships with people in the insurance industry, insurance companies, agencies, people with different organizations and associations. Always had a relationship with the insurance library myself during that tenure. As I said, the publication had a relationship with it. I took courses there in the early 1990s. I knew my predecessor going back to really well. Her name is Jean Lucy. I'm sorry, her name is Jean Lucy. She's retired, but she's still with us, and she's great. And I have conversations with her from time to time. And so it's just a really great organization that has a lot to offer. And we've been doing more and more, over time. And so stay tuned and watch what we're up to, because I think we have a lot to offer as I said, the insurance and risk management community. And really, the book that we're going to talk about today, is part of a function of that. We've always offered for decades and decades insurance education, usually to people either coming into the insurance business or already in the insurance business and who want to increase their skills and their knowledge base. Again, we've offered CPCU and other designation courses. But the idea for this book came about because I was shortly after I joined the library, I was going out to meetings, and I went to an insurance tech sort of oriented meeting in Boston, and I was just doing the normal kind of socialize. A couple of gentlemen who were running some sort of operation in Cambridge looking at the application of artificial intelligence to insurance applications. So you run something that offers education? I said, yeah. And they said, you offer like an insurance 101? I'm like, yeah. Would you offer for us? I was like, absolutely. And I realized that there's a whole world out there of people who are with the InsurTech movement, coming into insurance and wanting to interact with it. And then subsequently to that conversation, I had similar conversations with Rob Galbraith, regarding his book and seeing, I think, some of his social media posts about the end of insurance as we know it, where he described how it, to some extent, has functioned as a insurance 101, an introduction to insurance for some people in the innovation space. And I spoke to him, and I spoke to Carly Burnham, your associate, Tony, with Insurance Nerds. I said, what do you think? Maybe there's a thing there, an unmet need for a book, a course for Insurance 101, for InsurTechs, for innovators, for people who don't need to know everything about insurance, right? Tony, you're a CPCU, I'm a CPCU. We know quite a bit. People get licensed, right? You need to know certain things to be licensed. But you don't need to know all that stuff. You don't need to study a book that's that thick in order to sort of have a conversation and to avoid pitfalls, I guess, too. So the idea was really to put together something really fairly basic, but hopefully accessible. That you could either, if you were somebody who was just interested in innovation, you realize the insurance industry might have something for you to work in and to pretty quickly get your arms around a lot of the basic concepts, the who is who, the what is what within the insurance ecosystem, for lack of a better word. And so you don't sort of, spend time doing something you shouldn't be on an idea, spending time, working on an idea that isn't going to go anywhere because it doesn't really fit within what really exists in insurance, but also to have the sort of the nomenclature, the vocabulary to be able to talk to somebody in the insurance business and have a conversation where you're not sort of stepping on words or not understanding what they're talking about.
Okay, so basically you went to an InsurTech meetup and you were like, holy crap, they know nothing about insurance.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that differs, and probably this book could have come out probably 4 or 5 years ago and probably would have.
Yeah, it's gotten better. It's gotten better. InsurTech has come a long way. Because I hear you. I've had those same experiences where I went to an InsurTech meetup and was like, holy crap, like they truly have no idea.
Right. Well, it's part of what you mentioned, Rob's book launch event, which we had at the library. That was in, I want to say March of 2019. And, one of the parts of his presentation was, he was working with USAA in a role in which he was interacting with a lot of innovators, and they would present to him, and he'd be at a lot of meetings, and if I recall this correctly, is somebody came up to him and said, I'm going to put you out of business in 3 years or something like that, and I was like, oh really? Oh, okay. And then you kind of have the conversation, you kind of maybe understand that the person doesn't really know what they're getting into, to a certain extent.
So yeah, Rob mentions him in the book, and it's a really interesting backstory. So this particular conversation happened at CPCU annual meeting in Indianapolis, and the Rob didn't know this at the time, and he didn't know this when he wrote the book. He knows this now, but the reason that person was there at CPCU was because I invited him. Basically, I got contacted by I was living in Berkeley, California, right across the bay from San Francisco when the InsurTech thing really started happening. And I was running Insurance Nerd. So what started happening is I started getting calls or emails, really. I started getting emails from venture capital firms saying, hey, we'll buy you dinner and pick your brain about insurance because we want to invest in insurance. We didn't even have the word insurance tech, right? So right. I would get a free dinner and kind of like talk.
You probably should have got more than dinner, Tony. If they saved some money, if they saved a few million here and there.
I'm too nice. I really am. And this particular guy, I won't name him by name, but this particular guy worked at a venture capital firm, and he reached out and bought me lunch, I think he bought me lunch. In the city, and we talked, and it was really fascinating to see the idea that he had when we arrived at lunch was radically different from the idea that he had when we left lunch, which was radically different from the email he sent me, let's say 2 weeks later, with a deck that he was using to present about it. The deck successfully raised him $1 million to start a company. So yeah, right then and there, I was like, and I get nothing, right? And then I suggested that he should go to CPCU annual, and I warned him, this year it's going to be really small because it's in Indianapolis, but it'd be a great place for you to ask questions and get to know some of the people that run insurance companies, and he did. Him and 2 team members used part of that $1 million that they had raised from venture capital to go to CPCU annual in Indianapolis, where they bought me a much nicer dinner. And that's where
St. Elmo's, I hope.
Yeah, something like that. And I introduced him to a bunch of people, including Rob, and that's where they had that conversation. And the funny thing is, so it was fascinating to see the way his brain worked, how different it was from insurance people, and to see how they approached the conference, and to see how the idea evolved radically. Like by the time he ended up launching something, it was like let's put it this way. When I first met him, he wanted to launch a competitor to State Farm and put State Farm out of business, literally. By the time he went to the CPCU meeting, the idea was cell phone insurance, like app-based cell phone insurance. That's what he used.
It's a little different, right?
Yeah, that's what he used in order to raise the first $1 million to kind of start exploring the idea. Yeah. And by the time he actually launched something, like by the time he actually launched an InsurTech, it ended up being taxi and limo insurance in New York City. That's where the company was based out of. And they did launch. They existed for maybe a year and a half or so. We chatted a couple of times. He complained that the front end of the company was this beautiful tech thing, but on the back end, they didn't have a way to connect to the carriers. So on the back end, they were literally turning the stuff that was coming into Accord forms and using those to submit to. And that's the last I heard of him, when he was trying to figure out how do we automate this stuff, because it's driving me crazy, right? And he's no longer, the company went broke or went out of business, whatever, and they're no longer in InsurTech, right? He's now doing something separate from InsurTech, outside of insurance. So Rob won
I've been an observer, and a participant, at least in conversations about insurance industry for 25 plus years. So when InsurTech came in, and all this things about disruption and whatnot, I was a skeptic, and I on occasion given sort of presentations about just reminding people that innovation isn't a new concept to insurance before it's because it seems like there's a perception that at least it was. I think that things have changed over time, but there was certainly this perception that this insurance industry is this old-fashioned, hidebound business that's huge and has all kinds of money but doesn't really know what it's doing and can't really keep up, and so it's going to be what it's like, well, it has all the money, it's sort of like you gonna edit this?
I can hear it. Yes, it's really funny. Before we started recording, Paul introduced me to a new member of his family, who's very cute, who just started barking. So it's a beagle mix.
I got some help in that.
Yeah, it looks like he's under control now. Go ahead.
I'm working from home. Yeah. So the whole idea that the insurance industry is very subject to disruption and somebody's going to come in and just sort of do it the Uberization, right? So we saw what Uber did and left to the taxi industry, and I think that, and there was a certain level of fear there for a while, but I if people in the insurance industry, that these companies are they're smart people, and they stay on top of existing trends, and they're wary of disruptions. That's nothing new. I mean, it's a SWOT analysis at the end of the day, right?
It was Nick Lamparelli was the one that really helped me get my head around it. But basically, the number one reason that you can't come in and just put State Farm out of business is that regardless of inefficiencies, regardless of crappy systems, crappy software, regardless of all the problems that we have as an industry, State Farm is sitting on something like $70 billion of policyholder surplus, right? So basically, they could lose money for a very long time while your venture capital backers won't be able to outlast them, right? And that's not what they're doing. They are adapting to the times, right?
They are, yeah. That's the thing. I mean, you may not see some of these brands, visibly, being cutting edge or something like that. But there's teams within these organizations that are always watching out for competitors and trying to do, to evolve. You don't become a company like State Farm, but even regional carriers who are well capitalized and work in the independent agency system. Again, somebody may look at that as an old-fashioned system and these old, 150-year-old.
But it's resilient. It's old-fashioned, but it's resilient.
But their heads aren't in the sand. They are cognizant of what's going on and paying attention to it and making sure that they're not about to be.
So if I'm an InsurTech, whether I'm looking at opening an InsurTech or working at an InsurTech, or I'm interviewing at an InsurTech, etc., why should I read your book?
Well, I don't make any promises. My book does not have insights about innovation. It doesn't tell somebody who is an innovator, how they should proceed in the world of innovation. So I want to be perfectly clear about that. It does actually have some chapters, some excerpts from Rob's book, which kind of go a little bit along those lines. This book, I'm going to hold it up now. That's okay. It's a tool to learn about insurance, the world of insurance, and learn about it quickly. So it's something you want to get when you just start your sort of inquiry. It has terms that are italicized that you can just Google and learn more. It's not meant to be an all-encompassing, but it sort of gives you what you need to know to start the conversation and to sort of not be embarrassed and not to sort of say the wrong thing. It's just something like the fact that an insurance company can be called an insurer, an insurance company, a market, a carrier. So if somebody's speaking to somebody who's in the insurance business, they'll throw around these terms: an assigned risk plan, a pool, a residual market. Well, that's kind of all the same things usually, depending on the specific application. What's a producer versus an insurance agent versus, all these things that are sort of that we in the insurance world, take for granted as our nomenclature. But if you're if you don't know that, you don't know that, and it can be difficult. Spend a little bit of significant time on insurance regulation. That's kind of my background, and I was working for National Trade Association when the NEIC formed its Innovation and Technology Task Force, and I was sort of the policy lead for that. So I really paid attention to how the onset of this kind of new wave or awareness or whatever of innovation and insurtech was responded to by the regulatory community, because that's a real significant issue for innovators. That's something that you wouldn't anticipate, right? If you know a lot about the general business world, if you have your MBA and from a top 10 school, and so you look at insurance and, okay, well, I'm going to go do this. Why are they doing this thing this way, this entire industry? Well, there may very well be
the answer
insurance regulation.
A lot of the time is because regulation.
Yeah, because we have to do it that way.
Yeah, because exactly. And it looks crazy to every other business.
Right.
But
it's a different business. That's so it's like there's some, you may say like, oh, insurance regulation could be the problem, but a lot of times it's, insurance has to be regulated, right? You're taking in money and then you're sitting on it and you have to pay it out over time. And so if you don't,
I have always said that the reason insurance is so fascinating is because we are the only business that does not know the cost of goods sold when we sell it. Sometimes we don't know it for years or decades, right?
Right.
The amount of regulation we have is absolutely necessary to protect the consumer and to protect the companies themselves from making stupid short-term decisions. And the really tricky thing in the States, as opposed to Europe, is 53 separate regulators, right? Or 54, like 1%.
56. There we go. 56 jurisdictions. I don't know. The 50 states, Washington, D.C., and then the territories. So you've got 56 different regulators. And then on top of that, you've got, what is the National Association the National Association of Insurance Commissioners? The NEIC?
And then you have NEIC, which produces model legislation, but that doesn't have any real power, right? It's more of a here's how it could work, and then each state's kind of adopted the way that they want to. Right? I'm not on the regulation side, but it's very complicated,
except for it. So the NEIC has an accreditation program.
Okay.
So when it comes to the financial laws and regulations, it actually has a significant lever and teeth to promote when something gets promulgated out of the NEIC as a model law that becomes what they call an accreditation requirement. It's pretty much guaranteed to be every single state. So there's a whole world there of
right, and then there's some states that are kind of special, right? So like New York is often copied by the other. But by the other DOIs, so you kind of want to be New York friendly, right? And then California is its own animal, right? So it while no single book, much less, if I'm not mistaken, this one's about 100 pages, right?
It's actually fewer than that. The point was to be brief because again, this is say again. If you're an innovator, if you just hired 10 people, you may want to buy 10 copies and just pass them out, or as you add staff, because again, when I went back to the original story, some of these ventures are hiring people who are computer coders and they don't want to learn they don't want to spend 3 months studying all this kind of real intricacies of the insurance business, but it's probably good if they understand something of the context that they're operating in. So it's both for sort of the founders as they first start to learn about the insurance industry that they want to interact with, and sort of make sure that they don't sort of make a mistake and step in something that they don't need to, but also just to give people, just a context of what this business is about, really. So, I mean, they talked about some fundamental principles about the role of insurance in society, how important it is. But then, really basic, we have there's a chapter on underwriting. When I say chapter, I mean 2.5 pages. There's a chapter on claims. There's a chapter, on regulation, on rating agencies, statistical organizations. But just enough so you sort of, understand again.
Yeah. So you could go and buy the book for CPCU 500 and CPCU 520 and get everything you need, but right, you just spent a month and a half reading 400 pages of
Right.
textbook when those two books are probably like $300 total because
Right.
and or
there's no footnotes. There's no right. There's just like again, the words that would have been footnoted or italicized. So it's if you Google, so if you it's and I talk about that in the book too. Just how to use this book. So just it's very, very accessible for anybody who just really doesn't know.
So we probably couldn't call it this, but it's something equivalent to like the little red book of basic insurance knowledge for innovators.
Yeah. I'm a fan of as I said, I'm a writer. Strunk and White. So the writer's guide that I think it was a Cornell professor, I would say William Strunk, put out a long time ago. It's a very slim book, but if you follow the guidelines in that, it's very clear about how to write well, how to write with clarity. This doesn't give somebody the tools to necessarily do something, but it's meant to give you just enough so you can have those kinds of conversations.
Started on the right path. To avoid the big things you're likely to screw up. That's it.
Just to give another Rob Galbraith example. Mm-hmm. He was talking to somebody who was describing some sort of proposed innovation to him, and I think Rob's answer was like, "Oh, so that would affect frequency rather than severity." And for anybody in the insurance business, certainly if you're CPCU or you understand the difference between frequency and severity when it comes to insurance losses, but this person just kind of looked at it with a blank look, so it's like, it addresses that kind of it talks about that. It talks about the law of large numbers. It talks, so it tells you what the difference is between, different kinds of distribution methods in insurance, right? Even the distinction between personal and commercial, right? So if you were to start going into the insurance business, that you wouldn't have a grasp of the fact that there are some companies that are really concentrated in personal and some really concentrated in commercial, and then there's a mix. The fact there's a diversity out there, right? And that and it's not necessarily correlated with bigger companies or commercial, right? There's plenty of big commercial, but there's small companies that do commercial and do it well. There's huge companies, State Farm, as you mentioned earlier, that do almost all personal, right? So it's like, it's not, the size of the company doesn't necessarily correlate with the mix of business, so it's those just kinds of things you wouldn't necessarily that might go against your intuition, I guess.
Awesome. So I just like I told Rob about his book, there's going to be many insurtechs out there that will wish you wrote this 5 years ago, but it's here now. So yeah, I agree with you. I think if you're an insurtech founder or it makes sense to buy one for each member of your team, especially if you're, if you've got 100 people, we'd love to sell you 100 copies, but I think it'll be especially useful for those truly fresh operations that right, you've got 5 people, you've got 10 people, you're just starting to build. This could save you a lot of money, a lot of time. Probably the biggest thing is a lot of time in finding the right business model that all for, we're selling this for what, like $10 a copy, something like that?
Yeah, $9.95.
$9.95. So the cheapest.
It's like what's it the?
I don't want to say the cheapest.
And I do want to say too, the proceeds of the book go to the insurance library.
Oh, that's right. Yes,
is a 501c3 charitable nonprofit. We are, we exist to serve the insurance community, which includes consumers, public policymakers. We're not owned by the insurance industry. We're not beholden to anybody. We're an independent organization. And also that the book is like the start of a conversation too. So if somebody buys the book and you have a question about reading it, shoot me an email. Let's find me on social media. We'll talk about it. And so it's just something that really we wanted to put out there with the help of insurance nerds to be a resource to start and engage in the whole conversation with a different segment of the business.
Awesome. I will include a link to your LinkedIn profile on the show notes. So if you have a question about the book, add Paul on LinkedIn and send him a message. And Paul, thank you very much for.
No, thank you, Tony. Appreciate it.
And especially that, like, it's. Let me see if I can. So let me put it this way. The insurance library is an organization that's 150 years old. Like, I don't have my calculator.
133, I think it was.
133-year-old organization.
87, yeah.
It is really great to see you guys reaching out to the insurtech community and giving them this warm welcome into the insurance world. And I think that I'm glad that you're doing that, and how cool that the profits from the book go to the insurance library and help support this wonderful organization. Thank you so much for your time today. And I guess I hadn't said this earlier, but I really should include a disclaimer that the book was published by Insurance Nerd. So obviously I'm biased since I'm a part owner of the publisher. But truly, this type of thing, a simple, easy to read, like hand it to your employee on Monday, they can easily finish it by tomorrow. And now they've been inoculated, they've been vaccinated with basic insurance knowledge. Because, most early hires at InsurTechs are IT people, right? They're developers, they're not. Sure. But one of if you're lucky, your co-founder is an actual insurance person. But then it takes a while before they figure out that they need other insurance people. Like a lot of them.
I mean, if you don't do something like CPC or other institutes, AINS or something like that, then you can sort of like you learn little different parts of it, but then you can have significant gaps. And again, this is to provide the information anybody needs to be a licensed agent or to be a professional in insurance. But it's it definitely gives you the sort of again, working with insurance nerds to sort of make sure that it covered the right territory. I think, what you would expect to know at a pretty high level in order to not miss any, significant gaps.
It makes so much sense. It's one of those things where I bet we'll be getting a lot of comments like we did with Rob's, people saying, I wish you had written this 5 years ago. You would have saved me so much time and money. If you had written this 5 years ago. So the book is out now, if I'm not mistaken.
It's been on Amazon for a couple of weeks.
You can get it on Amazon.
It's finding an audience. It was like a #1 new release for a little bit in business insurance category. So so people are finding it. So.
You are such a modest, easygoing guy. Like you don't have JD, CPCU next to your name. Like every other author we've brought on starts the conversation with #1 bestseller in #1 new bestseller in insurance. Which by the way, every insurance book that every insurance nerds book has been because we're right. We choose good authors and
good authors, and you have a good audience for.
We have a built-in audience, right? And so we always get #1 bestseller, best new seller in our very niche category of insurance.
Right.
We make sure we do, but it's just really funny that you mentioned it at the very end of the podcast. I should have mentioned it.
We talked. The point of it really wasn't to sort of necessarily sell a ton of books, but to sort of fill an unmet need, and if it finds an audience, then fantastic.
Thank you very much for your time, Paul, and everybody, Northeast Boston area, or if conferences in the future take you to the Northeast, go visit the library once it's fully open. Once the world's back to the new normal.
In the meantime, let us know if there's other ways we can be of service.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Paul.
Thank you, Tony. Have a great day.
Awesome.